the aroma of freshly baked bread, a scent as familiar and comforting as a warm embrace, perpetually hung in the air within the modest yet immaculately kept home of Agnes Miller. At 73 years, Agnes was the heart and soul of her small family, a simple woman whose life revolved around the quiet joys of her husband, Arthur, their 2 grown children, and a growing brood of grandchildren who adored her unwavering affection and the endless supply of her legendary apple pie. Her days were a gentle rhythm of household chores, tending her small but vibrant rose garden, and preparing meals that were always served with an extra helping of love. Arthur, her husband of 50 years, often remarked that Agnes had a knack for turning the ordinary into something special, a gift that permeated every aspect of their life together. Their finances had always been managed with a similar quiet diligence. Agnes, despite never having worked outside the home after their marriage, possessed a shrewd understanding of thrift and saving. Over the years, through careful budgeting and a steadfast commitment to putting aside a little from Arthur's modest pension each month, she had managed to accumulate a small nest egg. This wasn't a grand fortune, but it was a comforting cushion, a reassurance against unforeseen circumstances, and a fund earmarked for little joys like spoiling her grandchildren on their birthdays or taking the occasional day trip to the seaside, a place that held cherished memories from their own early years. The savings were her secret, a quiet source of pride and security. Arthur knew she was careful with money, but he wasn't aware of the exact amount, trusting her implicitly to manage their affairs. The money was kept in a small, locked metal box tucked away in the back of her wardrobe, a tangible symbol of their years of shared frugality and planning. Agnes would occasionally open the box, gently counting the bills, a small smile gracing her lips as she envisioned the possibilities it held, perhaps a new set of garden tools she had been eyeing, or a special treat for their upcoming wedding anniversary. Life in their small town of Meadowbrook was generally peaceful, the kind of place where everyone knew everyone else and a strong sense of community prevailed. Agnes had always felt safe and secure within its familiar embrace. The idea of anything untoward happening to her or her savings had rarely crossed her mind. One sunny Tuesday morning, Agnes decided to take out a small portion of her savings. Her eldest grandson, 10-year-old Leo, had his heart set on a particular telescope for his upcoming birthday, a gift that was a little beyond their usual budget. Agnes had secretly decided to use a bit of her nest egg to make his wish come true. She felt a surge of warmth at the thought of his face lighting up when he unwrapped the telescope, imagining him spending hours exploring the mysteries of the night sky. With a light step, Agnes went to her wardrobe and reached for the metal box. Her fingers fumbled slightly with the small key, a familiar weight in her hand. She unlocked the box and lifted the lid. Her breath caught in her throat. The box was empty. A wave of icy disbelief washed over her, followed by a dizzying surge of panic. Her eyes scanned the empty interior, as if willing the carefully stacked bills to magically reappear. But there was nothing. The box, her symbol of years of careful saving, held only the faint scent of old paper. Agnes sank onto the edge of the bed, her legs suddenly feeling weak. Her mind raced, trying to make sense of the impossible. Had she moved it? Had she perhaps hidden it somewhere else and forgotten? She searched the wardrobe meticulously, then the drawers, then the small nooks and crannies of their bedroom, her desperation growing with each passing moment. But the savings were nowhere to be found. The amount wasn't a fortune, but it represented years of sacrifice, of forgoing small pleasures to build a sense of security for their future. It was the money she had hoped would provide a little extra comfort in their old age, the fund she had planned to use for those special family moments. Now it was gone, vanished without a trace. Tears welled up in her eyes, blurring the familiar surroundings of her bedroom. It wasn't just the money. It was the violation, the feeling of helplessness that washed over her. Who could have done this? Who would have known about her secret savings? She thought of Arthur, her steadfast companion, who had always worked hard to provide for them. How would she tell him? He trusted her implicitly with their finances. The shame and guilt began to gnaw at her. For a moment, Agnes felt a profound sense of despair. The security she had so carefully built had been shattered, leaving her feeling vulnerable and exposed. But then, A spark of resolve flickered within her. Agnes Miller was a simple woman, but she was also a strong one. She had faced hardships before, and she had always found a way through them. She wouldn't let this defeat her. She had to figure out what had happened and, more importantly, she had to find a way forward. This wasn't just about the lost money. It was about the trust that had been broken, the security that had been violated. And Agnes knew, with a growing determination, that she wouldn't rest until she understood what had happened to her lost savings. Her heartwarming tale was about to take an unexpected turn, one that would test the resilience of her spirit and the strength of her family bonds. The initial shock slowly began to give way to a more analytical frame of mind. Agnes, despite the tremor in her hands, started to retrace her steps, trying to recall the last time she had seen the metal box intact, the comforting weight of the cash within reassuring her. It had been just a few weeks prior, when she had added a small amount she had saved from selling some extra vegetables from her garden at the local market. She distinctly remembered the feel of the crisp $10 bills as she carefully placed them inside, arranging them neatly amongst the others. Who knew about the box? Arthur, of course, knew she had a savings stash, though not its exact location or amount. Their children, Margaret and David, were grown and had their own families and financial responsibilities. They rarely came into her bedroom uninvited. The grandchildren were frequent visitors, their innocent laughter echoing through the house, but they were too young to understand the concept of hidden savings, let alone access a locked box. A nagging thought pricked at the edge of her memory. A few weeks ago, their neighbor's grandson, a polite young man named Ethan who was helping Mrs. Henderson with some yard work, had come over to borrow Arthur's ladder. Agnes had been in the garden at the time, and Ethan had briefly stepped inside to ask Arthur, who had been resting in the living room. Agnes couldn't recall if her bedroom door had been fully closed. It usually was, but on that particular day, in her haste to get back to her gardening, she couldn't be entirely certain. Ethan seemed like a good lad, always respectful and helpful to his grandmother. The thought of him being involved felt deeply unsettling. She decided to confide in Arthur. Gathering her courage, she found him in his favorite armchair by the window, engrossed in the morning newspaper. Her face, usually so serene, betrayed her distress. Arthur, ever attuned to her moods, immediately sensed that something was wrong. "Agnes, dear, what is it? You look pale." He set aside his newspaper, his brow furrowed with concern. Taking a deep breath, Agnes sat down opposite him, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "Arthur," she began, her voice trembling slightly, Something terrible has happened." She recounted the discovery of the empty metal box. The years of savings vanished without a trace. As she spoke, Arthur's initial confusion gave way to shock. Then a deep concern etched itself onto his face. He listened patiently, without interrupting, his gaze fixed on hers. When she finished, a heavy silence filled the room. Arthur reached across and took her hands in his grip firm and reassuring. "Agnes, my dear," he said softly, "are you sure you didn't just misplace it? Perhaps you moved it somewhere else and forgot." "I've searched everywhere, Arthur," Agnes replied, tears welling up in her eyes again. "It's gone. All of it." Arthur's expression turned thoughtful. He knew Agnes was meticulous and organized. If she said it was gone, it likely was. "We need to think about this calmly," he said, his voice steady. "Did anyone else know about this money, Agnes?" She hesitated for a moment, then mentioned her conversation with her friend, Martha, a few months ago. They had been discussing their retirement plans, and Agnes had vaguely mentioned having a small amount saved for emergencies. She hadn't specified the amount or the location, but the information had been shared. Martha was a good friend, though someone she had known for years. The thought of Martha betraying her trust seemed improbable. "We need to consider all possibilities, Agnes," Arthur said gently. "We should also inform the police." The thought of involving the police made Agnes feel uneasy. It felt like an admission of vulnerability, a further shattering of their peaceful existence. But she knew Arthur was right. There was no other logical course of action. Arthur contacted the local police station, and a young officer, Constable Davies, arrived later that afternoon. Agnes recounted the events, her voice still thick with emotion. Constable Davies listened patiently, taking detailed notes and asking pertinent questions about who might have had access to the house and if there had been any signs of forced entry, which there hadn't been. As Constable Davies conducted his initial investigation, examining the empty metal box and the surrounding area, Agnes and Arthur felt a growing sense of unease. The idea that someone they knew, someone who had perhaps even been welcomed into their home, could be responsible for this theft was deeply disturbing. Constable Davies advised them to be vigilant and to think carefully about anyone who might have shown an unusual interest in their finances or their home. He promised to conduct further inquiries in the neighborhood. The following days were filled with a heavy cloud of worry and suspicion. Agnes found herself looking at familiar faces with a newfound scrutiny, wondering if anyone she knew could have been capable of such an act. Sleep offered little respite, her mind replaying the discovery of the empty box, the years of saving seemingly dissolving into thin air. Arthur, ever her steadfast support, tried to reassure her, reminding her that their love and their family were more valuable than any amount of money. But Agnes couldn't shake the feeling of loss, not just of the savings, but of the sense of security and trust that had been so integral to their lives. Amidst the worry and uncertainty, Agnes's thoughts kept returning to her grandson, Leo, and his dream of owning a telescope. The guilt of not being able to fulfill his wish weighed heavily on her. The lost savings weren't just about their future. They were also about the little joys she had planned to bring to her family in the present. As the days turned into weeks with no news from the police investigation, Agnes began to feel a sense of resignation. Perhaps the money was gone for good. Perhaps they would never know what had happened. But even as that thought settled in, a new determination began to take root in her heart. She might have lost her savings, but she wouldn't lose her spirit. She would find a way to recover not just financially but emotionally as well. This setback would not define her. Instead, it would become a catalyst for a new chapter, a heartwarming tale of resilience, budgeting, and the enduring strength of family. The lesson in financial prudence was about to become a lived experience, one that would bind her family together in unexpected ways. The weeks that followed the loss of the savings were a quiet test of the Miller family's resilience. Agnes, though still feeling the sting of the betrayal and the loss of her hard-earned nest egg, refused to succumb to despair. Arthur, true to his unwavering nature, provided a constant source of comfort and support, reminding her that their life together was rich in ways that money couldn't measure. Their children, Margaret and David, were deeply concerned when they learned about the theft. They offered their parents financial assistance, but Agnes, with a gentle firmness, declined. She explained that while she appreciated their generosity, she felt a strong need to manage this challenge herself, to find her own way to recovery. However, the incident sparked important conversations within the family about financial security and planning, topics they had previously only touched upon superficially. Margaret, a pragmatic accountant, sat down with her parents and helped them create a detailed budget, something Agnes had always done intuitively but never formally. They tracked their income and expenses meticulously, identifying areas where they could cut back without sacrificing their quality of life. It was a revealing exercise, highlighting small, almost unnoticed expenditures that added up over time. David, a resourceful handyman, offered to help with any repairs around the house, saving them the cost of hiring professionals. He also spent time in Agnes's garden, helping her cultivate even more vegetables to sell at the market, a small but tangible way for her to start rebuilding her savings. The grandchildren, though unaware of the full extent of the situation, sensed the change in the household. They started offering their own small contributions. Leo, with the earnestness of a 10-year-old, offered to do extra chores for a small allowance, his dream of the telescope still lingering. Even the younger ones, sensing the slightly more frugal atmosphere, became more mindful of their requests for treats and toys. Agnes, inspired by her family's support and the practical steps they were taking, felt a renewed sense of purpose. The loss had been a painful blow, but it had also inadvertently brought her family closer, fostering open communication and a shared sense of responsibility. One evening, As they were all gathered for dinner, Margaret shared some basic principles of saving and investing, explaining the power of compound interest and the importance of diversifying their savings in the future, should they manage to rebuild them. Arthur listened intently, asking thoughtful questions, while Agnes absorbed the information, realizing that her intuitive approach to saving could be complemented by more structured financial planning. The idea of budgeting transformed from a mere tracking of expenses into a tool for achieving their shared goals. They started setting small, achievable financial targets together, saving for a weekend trip, contributing to Leo's telescope fund through extra chores and market sales. These small victories provided a sense of progress and boosted their morale. Agnes also decided to take a more active role in understanding their pension income and exploring options for ensuring their long-term financial security. She visited the local library, borrowing books on personal finance and attending a free workshop on retirement planning offered by a community organization. She realized that while her past approach to saving had served them well for a long time, the world of finance had evolved, and there were new strategies and tools she could learn about. As the weeks turned into months, Agnes and Arthur, with the unwavering support of their family, began to see a slow but steady improvement in their financial situation. The small amounts saved from careful budgeting, David's handiwork, and Agnes's thriving garden market sales started to accumulate. It wasn't the same amount they had lost, but it was a start, a tangible symbol of their resilience and their commitment to rebuilding their future together. The experience had been a harsh lesson, a stark reminder of the fragility of financial security and the importance of not only saving but also understanding how to manage and protect those savings. Agnes realized that her secret stash, while well-intentioned, had also been vulnerable. In the future, she resolved to be more open with Arthur about their finances and to explore safer, more transparent ways to save. The heartwarming tale of Agnes's lost savings was not just about the loss itself, but about the unexpected journey of recovery it had set in motion. It was a story of a family coming together, learning valuable lessons about budgeting, financial responsibility, and the enduring strength of their bonds. And while the memory of the stolen savings would always carry a tinge of sadness, it was now overshadowed by the warmth of their collective effort and the quiet determination to build a more secure future together. The importance of financial planning had been etched into their family story, a lesson learned not through words, but through a shared experience of loss and recovery. Time, with its gentle yet persistent current, continued to flow through the life of Agnes Miller and her family. The sting of the lost savings had lessened over the passing months, replaced by a quiet sense of accomplishment and a deeper understanding of their collective strength. The detailed budget that Margaret had helped them create became a natural rhythm in their household, no longer feeling like a restrictive measure but rather a tool that empowered them to make conscious choices about their spending and saving. David's continued help with home repairs and his enthusiastic support of Agnes's garden venture not only saved the money but also fostered a stronger sense of connection between them. The grandchildren, now more aware of the value of money, contributed in their own small ways, their earnest efforts bringing smiles to Agnes's and Arthur's faces. Leo, having patiently waited, finally received his cherished telescope, a gift made possible through the combined efforts of the family, a tangible symbol of their resilience. Agnes, empowered by the knowledge she had gained from her visits to the library and the retirement planning workshop, felt more confident in managing their finances. She and Arthur had open and honest conversations about their income, expenses, and long-term financial goals. They even explored the possibility of opening a small savings account at the local credit union, a step Agnes had never considered before, her trust having been shaken by the theft. This time, however, it felt different. It was a shared decision, a step taken together towards a more secure future. The mystery of the lost savings was never fully solved. Constable Davies's inquiries in the neighborhood yielded no concrete leads, and the case eventually went cold. While a part of Agnes would always wonder what had happened to her hard-earned money, she refused to let the unanswered question cast a shadow over her present. The experience, though painful, had taught her invaluable lessons, not just about financial prudence, but about the importance of open communication and the unwavering support of her family. The The heartwarming tale of Agnes's lost savings had transformed from a story of loss and vulnerability into a testament to the Miller family's enduring love and resilience. They had faced a financial setback, but in doing so, they had discovered a deeper strength within themselves and a stronger connection with each other. The experience had woven a new thread into the fabric of their family story, a thread of financial awareness and shared responsibility that would serve them well in the years to come. Agnes continued to tend her rose garden, the vibrant blooms a reflection of the enduring beauty of life, even in the face of adversity. The aroma of freshly baked bread still filled her home, a comforting reminder of the simple joys that formed the foundation of their happiness. And though the memory of the empty metal box would occasionally surface, it no longer held the power to bring her down. Instead, it served as a reminder of the valuable lessons learned, the financial wisdom gained, and the unwavering love that had helped them navigate through a difficult time. The simple woman, Agnes Miller, had faced a significant financial loss, but in its wake, she had found something far more valuable. The strength of her family, the importance of open communication about finances, and the empowering knowledge of how to budget, plan, and work together towards a secure future. Her tale was a heartwarming reminder that even in moments of financial hardship, the bonds of family and the lessons learned can lead to a richer and more resilient life. And in the end, the lost savings had inadvertently paved the way for a more financially aware and united family, a true testament to the power of budgeting, recovery, and the enduring strength of love. End of story.